Hello everybody, it's Michael here from Replica Airguns with a tabletop comparison. I made a couple videos last week comparing the Umarex Walther PPK to the KWC Makarov PM here. We did a tabletop comparison and a shooting comparison, and I got quite a few people that were asking me about comparing the PPK to some other products, or the PPKS to some other products. The Sig Sauer P365, that was for sure one that came up quite a few times, and it made me think, wouldn't it be kind of fun to compare the Umarex Walther PPKS to some other small, at least more compact blowback CO2 BB pistols? So that's what we're going to do this week. We're going to compare the Umarex Walther PPKS to a bunch of other guns. So we're going to compare them all together. We're not going to focus on any one specific gun. We're just going to take a look at all the guns on the table here today, as I found them to be some of the more compact CO2 blowback BB pistols in this case. So we're sort of staying away from non-blowback. There are some small non-blowback pistols, but again, today we're looking at blowback pistols because it's probably a little bit harder to put blowback operation and miniaturize it and make it work. In the case of this 365, the Sig Sauer P365, it's really tiny. It's got to be the smallest one, yet it kind of has a lot of the features you'd expect in a larger full-size blowback CO2 BB pistol. So let me explain what I have here on the table. We'll start with the Umarex Walther PPKS, which I've reviewed many times, including last week. So we're not going to do like full reviews. We're just going to kind of go over the basic specs. I'll show you around them quickly and kind of at least get an idea of what's a little bit the same and what's a little bit different with each pistol. And later on this week, I will be shooting them and comparing them, by the way. Before I specifically talk about one, they are all, again, CO2 operated 4.5 millimeter BB pistols that have at least some sort of blowback operation to them. They're going to have different types of magazines in terms of what type of magazines they have: stick magazines, full-size dropout magazines, magazine capacity. The feet per second is going to be slightly different, although most of them will be in the 300 to 350 FPS range. All right, so let's start with the PPKS again here. And so what we have with the PPKS from Umarex, the Walther PPKS, is a 295 feet per second claimed FPS, a 15-round stick magazine, and it weighs in at 1.2 pounds. Moving on to the Umarex Walther PPS M2. So there is a M1 version, I guess you'd say, or a non-M2 version, the earlier version of this pistol, or it was designed after that one. And this pistol has a claimed FPS of around 300 to 350. It holds 18 rounds in a metal stick magazine, and it weighs 1.2 pounds. Moving on to the Umarex Beretta Model 84FS. This gun has a full-size dropout magazine that holds 17 rounds along with the CO2. It weighs in at 1.4 pounds and has an FPS velocity of 360 feet per second. I know I'm kind of zigzagging around the table, but that's all right. Next, I'm going to look at the Sig Sauer P365. And this airgun shoots at a velocity claimed to be 295 feet per second. It has a 12-round magazine, very short magazine, I'll show you that in a bit, and it weighs in at 0.8 pounds, so definitely one of the lighter pistols on the table. And lastly, we have the ASG Bersa BP9CC. This gun has a claimed FPS of 350 feet per second with a 20-round magazine, so the highest capacity magazine out of all these guns, and it also weighs in at 1.4 pounds, so tying for the heaviest gun with the Beretta Model 84FS. So we're going to take a quick look at these guns, really quick. I just want to show them around. All these guns should have some sort of tabletop video, right? So you have your blowback operation, open slide or open ejection port. This gun has some CO2 in it, so I'm not going to pull the trigger or anything, but we have a plastic stick magazine in this case, and the CO2 just goes in the grip. You just remove the side cover here to get at it, okay? And I've shown you this gun many times. Nice little BB pistol. Again, probably for sure the oldest one on the table, close to 20 years old. We'll just work my way over here. We'll look at the Sig P365 now. And this gun, again, another blowback operated gun. But you can see here, it's actually looks to be like full blowback, but not quite. You know, it does lock back partially, but it has a full-size magazine. I just want to get in here so you can see it. All right, my camera was really struggling there for some reason. Anyways, you can see you have a full-size dropout magazine. It's metal and plastic, so it's pretty lightweight with a CO2 screw, but it holds a full CO2 and like 12 gram CO2 and the metal BBs, 12 of them, goes in the gun, okay? And you have basically you can see right through the ejection port, which is something you normally would see on like airsoft pistols. So that's kind of neat. It's got all the kind of cool stuff you would expect. Working slide catch release. You have a working safety on it in the back there, just like you'd find. So it's very true to form with a recessed barrel. And the trigger is absolutely, if I can just take it off, it should be on. It's the magazine. Oh, helps if that's in all the way. Okay, I've got it. I know I can get this to work. The trigger is just fantastic. It's super light, single action only trigger with very little take up. Really nice. So anyways, I know I spent a little bit of time on that gun, but that gun is very popular and it is really super cool. So let's take a look at the Beretta Model 84FS. This one's going back a few years as well. And it's a nice gun. It's very heavy compared to the other ones, 1.4 pounds. I think it's probably the heaviest gun on the table, even though it's supposedly tied with the BPS 9CC. I think it's still a little bit heavier. It does have the chunkiest grip on it for sure. This is another gun with a full-size dropout magazine that's metal and plastic. Okay, so that'll give you an idea. I like, obviously that's something that people like. It does have the tab on it, which is a little bit ugly, but it does have a full-size dropout metal magazine. And it's a nice gun, with a lot of working components on it, with a working safety where you'd expect it to be, everything like that. You have a slightly recessed barrel. Really nice pistol. For sure, that's a nice gun. And again, most of these guns are going to be in the Replica Airguns store.ca or .us, depending on where you're looking at these guns. And then we have the Walther PPS M2, another blowback gun. Obviously, all of them are blowback. Let's take a look here. Okay, got some of that ugly white writing on there. These are the takedown levers. They're just molded into the frame. So field stripping this gun isn't going to be too easy. You probably have to take some pins out or, do some things to do that. I wouldn't recommend it. You do have the stick mag, but it does have this nice full butt plate that covers the CO2 screw, which is kind of neat because you have this little piece that comes off the back of the grip, so you can get your CO2 in there, and then you can tighten it with the Allen key that's built in, so you don't have to go looking for one. That's a neat design that you see with some of these newer guns. Some good thinking went in there. So I didn't really show you the sights on some of these guns, but let's take a quick look. All right, just wanted to show you the sights quickly. I should show you the sights on the 365. They're probably some of the nicer sights. Got the green one on the front. Kind of like those sights. All right, next up we have the ASG Bersa BP9CC. Another nice gun, and this one probably, I would say it comes before, for sure, before the PPS and the 365. It's somewhere, I think the Beretta Model 84FS is pretty close. Maybe that one was first. I'm not exactly sure, but they're both a little bit older, not super old by any means, but going back 5-6 years. So you got the nice engraving all over the place here. Nice blowback operation. You can see the slides don't go too far back, not like on the 365. That's definitely a partial blowback, whereas the 365 has a much longer throw slide. But these guns, they're nice. They work pretty good. You do have the safety on the back on this one instead of a crossbolt safety like you find on some of these other guns, crossbolt safety there, right? And then again, you have the stick mag, which is a nice metal magazine. So the only gun that has a plastic stick mag would be the PPKS. All the other guns are going to have at least metal stick magazines or metal and plastic full-size dropout magazines. Now, to get at the CO2 on this one, you just pull it off. And you will need an Allen key, or actually you don't need an Allen key with this one. It doesn't have it built in there, but it has the tab, which is nice because it's covered up by the butt plate, as you can see there. So it gets all nicely hidden, and you don't even need an Allen key, so that's kind of nice. You do have these white dot sights on the back and on the front, and a slightly recessed barrel. All right, hopefully that gives you a good basic understanding of all of these pistols. You can watch the full reviews. I'll try to put as many links either after the video or in the description of this video so you can find at least the tabletop videos, and then those will direct you to the other videos like the field test shooting videos for each of these guns. But again, I will be shooting these guns kind of head to head in the CCAN. It's going to be short and concise. I'm going to get through the shooting as quickly as possible because I have 5 guns and I got to velocity test them and then actually accuracy test them really quick. So I'm going to kind of speed through it a little quicker than normal. Otherwise that video is going to get a little bit long, but we're going to do that shortly. It will hopefully be up by the end of this week. All right, so stay posted. Again, check out all these guns, all their reviews over at replicaAirguns.com, and of course on our YouTube channel that you're watching this video on right now. You can also buy a lot of them in our Canada and US online stores over at replicaAirguns.ca for Canada and replicaAirguns.us for the US. Don't forget to subscribe. Check us out on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Thanks for watching. Until next time, take care.